Hey guys, in this video we're going to do a couple different things. We are going to identify this guy, Benito Mussolini, who is another ruler with an iron fist, and he is from Italy. We're also going to define this word called fascism. I'll just kind of give you the basics of it. But these are all really important words in the 20th century. 20th century meaning the years 1900 to the year 1999. That is the 20th century, and the century that we are in right now is the 21st century. And that starts with the year 2000, and it'll go all the way to 2099. And then I'm going to explain homework, because as we near the end of the year, I want to give you guys more practice on how to write in an essay. All right, and I'll do that later. But this, I'm going to start with Benito Mussolini. He's from Italy, and he lived during the 19-teens, like during World War I. He became a leader in the 1920s, the 1930s, and was the leader of Italy during World War II. But just some background information about him. He grew up in Italy, and he worked various jobs growing up. His father worked in a factory, I think, and his mother was a teacher, and that kind of, I guess, influenced Benito Mussolini to work in those same kind of jobs. He worked as a teacher at one point for a brief period of time. He also worked in a chocolate factory, which is kind of interesting. But more importantly, Benito's father, he was a socialist, and we've talked about that word before. Socialist kind of means like workers who work at a company or maybe in a factory. They have more control over the company. They have more say on how to run the company. So like if a company, like say, I'll take for example, Chick-fil-A, they're a company. Well, that company is owned by a man named Dan Cathy, I think, and maybe one or two others. But that company is owned by one person or a couple people. Well, in a socialist, the workers kind of have ownership, or they have more control over that company. There are different definitions of this word, socialist, but I'm just kind of giving you kind of one of the main definitions of it. And we've talked about that word before. And Benito's father, he believed that government should be run by the working class people. Again, socialists kind of, that's another one of their beliefs. They think that the working class people should be the leaders of a nation or of a country, instead of politicians or really rich people. But I don't want to go too much into that. Okay. Also, Benito Mussolini, he became what's called a fascist leader of Italy, and I'm going to define that a little bit more. And his nickname was called Il Duce or Il Duce. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he was nicknamed as the leader. And if you remember from the intro, I believe it was from the intro video, fascists usually, well, actually, I'll get to that in a second. And a couple good things that he did as a fascist leader in Italy was that he built roads, he built schools, hospitals, factories, welfare programs, and sanitation. Sanitation is like another word for like stuff that cleans, maybe like picks up garbage or stuff like that. I can't think of it at the top of my head, but they help clean stuff. Welfare programs, we've talked a little bit about that before in the previous chapter. All right, so I want to get into this word called fascism. again, all these words have different definitions, but fascism has a unique definition in the 20th century, or in other words, the years 1900 to the years 1999. So in order to understand fascism, you have to know what this word is, called nationalism. We've talked about this before, but one key important part of nationalism is called loyalty and support of your country. A good example of this, when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, you are pledging your loyalty or your allegiance to your country. You're gonna support them because you are part of that country, and so when you pledge your loyalty, you're gonna always be with your country, and you're not gonna betray it. But there's a little bit more to this word nationalism. And I'm going to keep going. It is wanting to make your country stronger, bigger, more powerful, and definitely more successful. So nations like USA, Brazil, Germany, China, Canada, any of those nations, if you want to support your country, then a nationalist would want to make your country stronger, bigger, more powerful, more successful. But even if that means maybe hurting other countries, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe like being in competition with other countries and you want to kind of be like the winner in a way, then that's fine with a nationalist. Nationalist would kind of be like maybe thinking that your country is better than others. That's kind of what a nationalist would probably think. Think that your country and maybe your way of doing things and your culture, that would be better than other countries. And some nationalists might even want to take over other countries and show them how to be better, or how to do things the right way. And again, this is all nationalism in the 20th century. All right. And they would also say that government control, another aspect of fascism in the 20th century is that government takes control over business, education, media, like TV, newspapers, and society, and as well as other things. So like you guys go to a school where we can kind of, the teachers and the leaders of the school, we have a more say over what kind of things we want to teach. Like if you were in a public school, they probably wouldn't allow you to have Bible classes. But because we're at a private school, we have more freedom to teach, what we think are good things, like stuff like Bible classes. But fascism in the 20th century, they would kind of take over education, and they would say, okay, you need to teach these things, and it kind of ignore all this other stuff. So government control over those things. Also, another part of fascism is where you give your loyalty or your allegiance to the nation before your family, church, and your individual rights. So everything that you do is trying to make the nation better, stronger, bigger, and more successful. And the nation is more important, in some ways, more important than your family or your church or even your individual rights. Like if you have a right to, the freedom of speech, but if your freedom of speech kind of hurts the nation, then you might be arrested. You might even be harmed in some way. And that's what happened a lot back under fascism in the 20th century. Your rights to say whatever you want or to do whatever you want, those are kind of not important as long as they support the nation or the state to make it bigger, stronger, more powerful. Unless it does that, then it's highly discouraged. You may even be arrested for it. If your church teaches things that the nation doesn't agree with, that church might be shut down. If your family doesn't agree with what the nation is doing, your family might be in trouble. And that's exactly what happens, especially in Germany under Adolf Hitler. Some people who disagreed or who did not, or who were not making the nation bigger, stronger, and better, they were harmed. All right. And also, fascism in the 20th century, it's also very violent. People like Benito Mussolini, those that maybe opposed, those that were opposed to the nation, they might be harmed or even killed or maybe even imprisoned. So those are things that happen under fascism in the 20th century. So the last thing is why? Well, Italy was upset with their king after World War I. Their nation wasn't doing so great, and they're kind of waiting for somebody to lead them out of this troubled times. And I think I talked about this in the intro, but usually all these rulers with iron fists who are violent and very powerful, their nations are not doing very well, and they're kind of waiting for like a man to come up and save their country and bring them to power and greatness. So that's it for this video, and I'll do another one in just a second.